G'day legends, thank you for tuning in for another Flathead episode here on the beautiful Gold Coast. It's a great morning, we don't have much wind at the moment, but that is expected to change pretty shortly. So I'm going to make full use of this low tide while we can, and hopefully we can get onto a few fish. Alright, so we've pulled up to our first bank, and we've got a really big bank here, and on the high tide you're going to have a lot of flatheads sitting up on that particular bank, and they're going to be quite spread out. So I like fishing these sorts of areas on that low tide because those fish are going to come off and be far more concentrated, and it just means I'm going to be running my lure past a lot more flatheads than if I was to jump up there on that high tide and try and flick for them then. And it is quite a long bank, so I want to fish it pretty quickly to see if there's any fish actually holding here and feeding. And one of the first things I'm doing when I pull up to a bank like this is I'm trying to figure out what line those fish are on, because if I can find out they're all on a certain edge, then I don't have to cast very far and I don't have to work that lure all the way back to the boat. So instead of casting 20-30 meters and working a ton of ground and wasting a lot of time, I'm flicking and I'm probably only working my lure for the first 3 or 4 meters. And what that allows me to do is then I can cover these banks super quick and find out if they're going to work for me or not. Alright, so we've probably had about 10-15 casts on this bank, and I've worked it quite effectively and quickly. We've only had that one small fish bite, so that's telling me I probably need to move on and find a bank where they're a little bit more stacked up. Hopefully we can get these fish. Now what's been working for me quite well at the moment are doing these really short jabby flicks. And what I'm doing is I'm going flick, 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 and then I'm letting it sit there for quite a while, because the longer pauses have been working better. Now the reason why I like doing those really short little flicks is because I'm fishing quite weedy areas, I'm busting through that weed a bit easier as opposed to a long slow hop, which will collect that weed on the way up. These little flicks, I'm just really busting it through that weed quickly. And the other advantage there too is if I do happen to get a bit of weed, which I will, those aggressive flicks are also going to flick that off as well. Alright, we're at our next spot. That spot wasn't getting it done for us, so I'm just going to be fishing a big drainage point here. And again, we're going to just keep moving along that bank, see if we can find those fish. And there's quite a fair bit of weed up on these banks, so I'll keep doing those short little jabby flicks, hopefully keep that weed off my hook. We'll just keep working our way along until we can start finding some fish. There we go. Just a baby. Not even a score of that one. But at least we're going to get a few hits here, I think. Got some great water movement. The way this place drains out is quite good. See the water swirling as well. Angry little fish. Yep. Oh baby, jeez. He might be legal. Yeah, he's the legal one. Just right, with that wind picking up slightly, I don't think the green lantern's quite the right colour for it. It's just getting a little bit dirtier, so I'm going to chuck something else on and see if that makes a bit of a difference for us. Right, so I've got a little 3-inch minnow on here. That's in that midnight oil colour. I think with that water being a bit more rustled and a bit dirtier, that colour might do a bit better than the green lantern. So we'll see how we go. So I think there should be a few fish biting along here. We picked up a few rats and one legal fish in probably about 10-15 minutes, but I want a bit more than that. Right, so started that drift again, but we're fishing a little bit further up this time because this was the bank that did better than the secondary one. I'm just going to push up on the shallows a little bit more and flick this weed edge along here. That tide's coming off, so they should start biting pretty soon. We have been getting a really good incoming tide bite as well. That's probably been the pick out of the two, to be honest with you. But with that wind coming, I need to get some fish now. If that wind picks up on the start of the incoming, I'm probably not going to do that well anyway. hugging this weed edge quite close. So I'll go a few flicks up on that shallow edge, and then because I'm right on the weed edge as well, I'm doing a parallel cast. I can just sort of cover that more ground, but I'm sort of gauging where most of these fish are hiding. I'll start getting more on that parallel edge. That's just how I'll fish the whole entire bank. Keeper. I'll chuck that back. I'll work a little bit longer through here just because I've seen a bit of bait busting up on the shallows a little bit further, so I'll get up to about there. But if this is the size we're going to keep catching, I think I'm just going to move on. Time to move on, I think. We've got a fair few ruts off this bank, but only 2 of those fish were legal. We're going to get out of that wind. Just hope it doesn't keep picking up. Alright, so we pull that out of the wind, which kind of sucks because there's banks I know they're sitting on at the moment, but the wind's just going to be a bit too hard to fish there. Blowing quite a strong southerly now. We've ducked out of the wind. I'm just going to fish another weed edge along this bank. Still a great spot, so we should still be able to get a few fish. Hopefully they're biting for us. Very similar sort of setup to what we've been fishing so far today. Nice big bank that's exposed on the low tide. Nice weed edge as well, and I've been just preferring fishing bottoms that are a bit sandier than the muddy ones lately because it's quite cool being winter. I feel like those fish prefer to sit on those sandbanks because it retains more heat than mud. You get a lot of numbers on these sandbanks this time of year, and also just being a little bit close to the ocean as well. The water temp's probably a degree or 2 warmer as opposed to back towards the boat ramps. Oh, he's on. Oh. Oh, you bastard. Getting a few little tail grabs as well, but I think it's because they're smaller fish. I had someone ask me recently, you're getting all of those tail grabs, do you drop the size of your plastic to try and eliminate that? But it's not something I really like to do, because if I found the lure where they're hitting, I'm reluctant to change it because I picked the lure that's working. I'm getting the hits, I'm just not getting the fish on the hook. So I'm probably usually a bit more inclined to change my tactic up, which could just be slowing it down, using a TT Big Eyes jig head to draw the strike further up the lure, or fishing with a bit more slack. So if I have that slack, that fish grabs the tail, it gives it the chance to have that secondary suck in. If you ever watch fish swimming in an aquarium, sometimes you'll see them hit the bait, it's in their mouth, then they suck it in a second time. And another thing I can do too is just give that pause for an extra second after it hits, just so it actually gets down its gob, as opposed to striking as soon as I feel that touch. Oh, damn it, that was a better fish. It's not really hitting hard, so you just find that weight, but that fish actually ate it and swam back at me. Bugger. Yep. Oh, spat it at the boat. That was a legal fish. Right, so I've just switched over to the Gold Rush DieZel minnow. Another confidence bait. Has been a bit tough this morning. That wind's picking up more and more, so it's not going going to get too much easier. But we'll just continue to work ground until we find them. I've been getting a fair few hits, but we missed a couple. I dropped an okay one before, but there was one about 10 minutes ago. It was probably a decent sized flathead, and he swam at me, so I didn't get a good strike on him before I even realised he was hooked. It was all over. So probably in the first 5 casts of that gold rush I've managed to get one, but he's probably just legal or just on legal. That's an easy 50s model there. Chuck it back in. We are picking numbers off. It's just it's been a tough bite, and we're not getting a hot bite. We're just sort of getting one here and there. A lot of them have been pretty small. Not too many up around that 50 centimeter size. Definitely none up around that 60s plus. We'll just keep chipping away. We've still got a bit more time before that tide comes up too high that these banks are going to be ineffective. So we'll keep fishing and hopefully we can get a big one. Nice little scorer. That was probably 5 casts after I changed that plastic to a motor oil colour, so it's always a good feeling when you change colour up and you start getting a few bites. Guys, we're going to finish the video up there. Pretty tough morning. We've had to grind out those numbers. We probably got close to 15 in the end, but a lot of them are small. Probably average size around that 40 centimetre mark. Been very tough in the wind. It's blowing up quite a bit now, so there's probably not much point me fishing the rest of these banks. I think I'm just going to call it a day, but thank you for watching and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.